She thought the cold would kill her until a human lit the fire. The brilliant emerald flash of emergency thrusters illuminated the snowstorm as Cash's research vessel plummeted toward Viridia's surface. A deafening screech of tearing metal drowned out his curses as the ship carved a half-mile trench through ice and rock. Critical systems failure, hull integrity compromised, oxygen reserves at 67%, Aura announced with infuriating calm as warning lights bathed the cockpit in crimson. "Tell me something I don't know," Cash growled, fingers flying across the emergency control panel. Blood trickled from a gash above his eye, freezing almost instantly in the rapidly cooling cabin. The ship shuddered to a halt, its frame groaning under the stress of Viridia's brutal atmosphere. He slammed his fist against the console. "Aura, give me a situation report. What the hell happened?" Unknown energy signature disrupted navigation systems. Current external temperature, -112 degrees Celsius. Survival probability without immediate shelter, 14%. Cash dragged himself from the pilot's seat, wincing as pain shot through his leg. "Power reserves?" "Emergency power at 42%, main generator offline." He limped to the equipment locker, yanking out his thermal suit and emergency pack with practiced efficiency. The xenobiology expedition to Viridia had been controversial from the start. The planet was officially classified as uninhabitable, but Cash had built his career on proving conventional wisdom wrong. "Deploy emergency shelter and activate thermal perimeter," he ordered, sealing his suit as the cabin temperature plummeted further. The shelter's self-assembly sequence activated with a pneumatic hiss as he forced open the emergency hatch. Viridia's atmosphere hit him like a physical blow, stealing his breath despite the suit's protection. Wind-driven ice crystals stung his exposed face, the only part of him not covered by the thermal gear. "I need to gather materials to repair the communication array," he muttered, more to keep himself focused than for Aura's benefit. "Can't wait for the research team to wonder why I missed check-in." He trudged through knee-deep snow, scanning the wreckage trail for salvageable components. His augmented reality display mapped the surroundings, flagging anything potentially useful. 20 meters from the main wreckage, something anomalous registered on his scanner. A heat signature, faint but unmistakable, emanating from a nearby ice formation. Cash hesitated, hand moving to the molecular blade at his hip. Viridia wasn't supposed to support complex life forms. "Aura, analyze that heat signature," he whispered. "Insufficient data, signature consistent with endothermic biological processes," caution advised. The ice formation revealed itself as a small cave as he approached. Cash activated his suit's external lights, illuminating the entrance. Tracks in the snow, not animal, but not quite human either, led inside. "Hello," he called, immediately regretting breaking the silence. "I'm not a threat." A soft moan answered him, barely audible above the howling wind. Cash's scientific curiosity overrode his caution as he ducked into the cave, following the sound to its source. She lay curled against the back wall, her blue skin almost translucent against the ice. Snow-white hair spilled across her shoulders, partially covering her face. What struck him most were her eyes, luminous gold with vertical pupils that dilated as his light fell upon her. The diamond-shaped marking between her brows pulsed faintly with its own inner light. "Impossible," he breathed, scientific training momentarily forgotten as he stared at the alien woman. She hissed, scrambling backward until she pressed against the ice wall. Her body trembled violently, lips tinged with a deeper blue that Cash recognized as a sign of dangerous hypothermia, or whatever the equivalent was for her species. "I'm here to help," he said, slowly removing his outer glove to show her his 5-fingered hand. "You're freezing." "Stay away, human," she managed through chattering teeth, her accent musical despite her obvious distress. "You're kind, not welcome here." Cash's mind raced. Her knowledge of humans meant there had been prior contact, despite official records stating otherwise. More importantly, she was clearly suffering from extreme cold. Strange for a species evolved to survive on an ice planet. "Look, I don't know what your experience with humans has been, but I'm a scientist, not a threat," he explained, keeping his distance. "My ship crashed. I have shelter and heat. You need both, obviously." She regarded him with suspicion, hugging her arms tighter around her torso. Her clothing, a combination of woven fiber and what appeared to be locally sourced hide, provided inadequate protection against Viridia's brutal cold. "Banished," she whispered, her golden eyes dimming. "Can't return, cold weak." Understanding dawned on Cash. She was an outcast, apparently due to some inability to withstand the temperatures that her people had adapted to. As a xenobiologist, his fascination was immediate, a genetic variant perhaps, or an evolutionary divergence. A particularly violent shiver racked her body, and Cash made his decision. Scientific discovery could wait. Survival came first. "I'm Cash," he said, carefully moving closer. "I don't care why you're out here alone, but neither of us will survive long in these temperatures. My shelter has heat, real heat." Her eyes widened at this, a flicker of longing crossing her features before suspicion returned. "What payment?" she asked warily. "Information," Cash replied honestly. "I need to know how to survive here until I can repair my ship. You need warmth. Simple exchange." Another violent tremor shook her. Whatever resistance she might have offered weakened with each passing moment. Finally, she nodded once, sharply. "Efiara," she said, placing a blue hand against her chest. "My name." Cash approached slowly, noticing how she tensed as he drew near. Up close, he could see delicate vein-like patterns beneath her azure skin, pulsing with a sluggish rhythm. With careful movements, he helped her to her feet, feeling her lean heavily against him. The contact seemed to shock her, and she gasped, golden eyes widening as she felt the heat radiating from his body, even through his thermal suit. "You're burning," she whispered, both fear and fascination in her voice. "Normal human temperature," Cash explained, supporting her as they moved toward the cave entrance. "To me, you feel like ice." The journey back to the emergency shelter was arduous, with Efiara growing weaker with each step. By the time the shelter's thermal barrier came into view, she was barely conscious, her breathing shallow. Cash half carried her through the energy field that kept the warmth in and the killing cold out. The shelter's interior was Spartan but functional. Emergency medical equipment, communications array, and most importantly, the heating unit. "Aura, increase ambient temperature by 5 degrees, Cash ordered, helping Efiara to the sleeping platform. "Warning, increasing temperature may accelerate power consumption," Aura replied. "Just do it." As warmth flooded the shelter, Efiara's eyes fluttered open, her expression transforming from pain to wonder. Her lips parted in silent amazement as she stretched a trembling hand toward the heating unit, fingers splayed as if to capture every particle of warmth. "This is forbidden magic," she whispered, voice filled with awe. Cash couldn't help but smile as he prepared the medical scanner. "Not magic, technology, and right now it's going to keep us both alive." Efiara's golden eyes locked with his, vulnerability and cautious hope replacing her earlier suspicion. "Why help me? Your kind seeks only conquest." Cash frowned, wondering what encounter had given her this impression. "My kind is curious, sometimes reckless, but I'm just a scientist studying life forms, and right now you're the most fascinating life form I've ever encountered." A slight blue flush deepened her cheeks as she absorbed his words. Cash turned away, suddenly aware of how his scientific interest might be misinterpreted. "Rest," he said, adjusting the shelter's settings. "Tomorrow we figure out how to survive this frozen hell together." As Efiara drifted into exhausted sleep, Cash studied the medical scans with growing excitement. Her physiology was remarkable, similar to humans in basic structure, but with adaptations for extreme cold that should have made her impervious to Viridia's temperatures. Yet something was clearly wrong. The mystery of why she suffered in her native environment tantalized his scientific mind. Outside, the blizzard intensified, sealing them together in the small pocket of warmth amid a vast frozen wilderness. Cash glanced at Efiara's sleeping form, watching the steady rise and fall of her chest as color slowly returned to her blue features. He had come to Viridia seeking new discoveries. Instead, it seemed discovery had found him. Morning arrived with no discernible change in Viridia's perpetual twilight. Cash had been awake for hours, cataloging the damage to his ship's systems while Efiara slept. Her body, so rigid with cold when he'd found her, had gradually relaxed in the shelter's warmth. Temperature inside the shelter maintaining at 22 degrees Celsius, Aura reported. External temperature remains at negative 117 degrees, power reserves at 36%. Cash rubbed his stubbled jaw. How long until reserves reach critical? At current consumption rate, 3 days, 14 hours. He glanced at Efiara. Her eyelids fluttered as she began to stir, the diamond marking on her forehead pulsing more vibrantly than before. Her fingers twitched, reaching instinctively toward the heating unit. "You've never felt this before, have you?" Cash asked as her golden eyes opened. "Real warmth." Efiara sat up slowly, a look of wonder still etched on her features. "My people, we generate internal heat, enough to survive, not enough to feel." She paused, searching for the word. "Comfort." "Yet you can't," Cash observed, offering her a ration pack. "Why?" She accepted the food warily, sniffing it before taking a small bite. "Born wrong, defective. The elders say my internal fire is weak." Her voice hardened. "Kalvik said I would bring weakness to our bloodlines." "Kalvik?" "First hunter. She looked away. He was to be my mate, before the cold sickness proved my defect." Cash processed this information, adding it to his growing file of cultural observations. "So they banished you?" "Better than culling," she replied matter-of-factly, though her fingers trembled slightly. "Domarus, our leader, showed mercy." "Some mercy," Cash muttered. He turned to his equipment, pulling out a small metal disc. "This is a personal thermal regulator. We use them for deep space excursions." He demonstrated, placing it against his forearm where it adhered to his skin. "It creates a microfield of controlled heat." Efiara's eyes widened. "Your technology might keep you alive," he finished, programming the device before offering it to her. "May I?" She hesitated before nodding. Cash gently placed the disc at the base of her throat, where he'd noted a concentration of those pulsing vein-like patterns. The moment it activated, Efiara gasped, her back arching as warmth spread throughout her body. "By the ancient fires," she whispered, her voice trembling. Her hand flew to the disc, not to remove it but to feel it with wondering fingers. This is..." Cash watched, fascinated by the intensity of her reaction. The blue flush returned to her cheeks, spreading down her neck, and her pupils dilated until her eyes were almost entirely black. "Too much?" he asked, reaching to adjust the settings. "No," she exclaimed, catching his hand with surprising strength. "Please, don't take it away." Their eyes locked, and Cash became acutely aware of the smoothness of her skin beneath his fingertips, cool but rapidly warming. He cleared his throat and withdrew his hand. "I need to salvage parts from my ship to repair the communication array," he said, turning to his equipment. "But first, I need to understand this environment better. The storms, safe routes, any predators." Efiara seemed to collect herself, adjusting to the new sensation of consistent warmth. "The ice wolves hunt at dusk. The shifting fields lie to the north, unstable ice that breaks without warning." She hesitated. "I can show you safe paths if I share more technology," Cash guessed. "If you teach me," she corrected, "about your world, your warmth." Her gaze intensified. "Our tribes speak of humans as weak creatures who hide behind machines, unable to survive the true cold. Yet you survive. You create heat itself." Cash smiled slightly. "We're adaptable. That's our strength." He gestured to his damaged ship visible through the shelter's translucent wall, though sometimes we're too confident. Efiara rose gracefully, moving with new vitality now that she wasn't fighting the cold. "We begin now. The storm passes soon." Within an hour, they ventured outside. Despite the thermal regulator, Efiara wrapped herself in insulating materials Cash had provided. He carried tools and scanning equipment, documenting everything for his research as they worked. "Your people," he asked as they approached the crash site, "they know about humans but avoid contact?" "The first contact was," she paused, considering her words, "not peaceful. 3 generations passed, human explorers came. They took samples, tried to establish a base, melted a sacred ice field with their machines." Her expression darkened. 13 warriors died driving them away. Cash winced. Early interstellar exploration had sometimes prioritized scientific discovery over diplomatic caution. "I'm sorry." "You are different," she observed, studying him. "You ask. You listen." That's how science should work, he replied, kneeling to examine a damaged component. Understanding, not imposing. They worked through the dim Viridian day, Cash harvesting salvageable parts while Efiara kept watch for predators. When she detected danger approaching, her hearing far more acute than his, they retreated to higher ground, watching as serpentine creatures with multiple legs slithered through their tracks. Ice vipers, she explained. They sense body heat through the ground. Cash nodded, making mental notes. By the time they returned to the shelter, his arms were full of salvaged technology and his mind brimming with new information. Inside, he activated the communication array parts, beginning the painstaking process of reassembly. Efiara watched intently, asking questions that revealed keen intelligence and curiosity. Your tribe, Cash ventured, do they all share knowledge freely or is it restricted? Something guarded flickered across her features. Some knowledge is sacred, for elders only. Like Vaisha? He asked, recalling a name she had mentioned. Efiara's expression changed to surprise. You remember her name. I remember everything you tell me, Cash replied simply. It's all valuable. As night deepened outside, the shelter's lights dimmed to conserve power. In the soft glow, the lines of tension in Efiara's face softened, and Cash found himself studying her features, the graceful curve of her ears, the subtle patterns beneath her skin, the way her white hair caught the light. She met his gaze, and neither looked away. In the artificial warmth of the shelter, something unspoken passed between them, a recognition of two beings far from home, finding unexpected connection on a world of ice. Dawn broke with a brief flare of crimson on Viridia's distant horizon. Cash had been working through the night, his fingers nimble despite the cold as he integrated salvaged components. The navigation beacon is functional, he announced, satisfaction evident in his voice. Still can't transmit messages, but at least search vessels will be able to locate us. Efiara nodded, though her attention was on the thermal regulator she now wore like a treasured amulet. Over the past day, her demeanor had shifted subtly, her movements more fluid, her voice warmer. The consistent heat had awakened something in her, a vibrancy Cash found increasingly difficult to ignore. We need cerium crystals for your transmitter, she said, tracing a map in the frost that had accumulated on the shelter's interior. Found here, in the Whispering Caverns. That's a 2-day journey, Cash calculated, studying her improvised map. One day I know hidden paths. Cash considered the dwindling power reserves. We should go today. The journey took them across vast ice plains where the wind carved sculptures from frozen gas. Efiara moved with surprising grace, pointing out dangers invisible to Cash's eyes. Thin ice, predator territories, toxic gas pockets. How did you survive alone out here? Cash asked as they navigated a treacherous ridge. Without technology, without your tribe? Efiara's expression hardened. I adapted, observed, found warmer places. She glanced at him, not unlike humans. When they reached a narrow crevasse, Cash moved to descend first, but Efiara caught his arm. The touch, even through his thermal suit, sent an unexpected jolt through him. Wait, she said, her voice low. Watch. She picked up a chunk of ice and tossed it down. Instantly, serpentine forms writhed from beneath the snow, ice vipers waiting in ambush. Different path, she stated simply. Cash nodded, marveling at her knowledge. You'd make an excellent scientist. The compliment clearly surprised her. My people believe knowledge belongs to all or none, not individuals. Yet you've learned so much on your own. She didn't answer, but something shifted in her golden gaze. They made camp in a small cave as darkness fell. Cash activated a thermal unit, creating a bubble of warmth. Efiara sat close to him, closer than necessary, her shoulder occasionally brushing his. Each contact seemed to linger longer than the last. Your body, she said suddenly, it generates so much heat. Cash smiled. Normal human physiology. We maintain a constant internal temperature. May I? She hesitated, then held out her hand. Cash removed his glove, placing his palm against hers. Efiara inhaled sharply at the contact, her pupils dilating as they had when he'd first given her the thermal regulator. Your heat, she whispered. It feels different from the machines. Living warmth, Cash explained, acutely aware of how her fingers had intertwined with his. It's more than just temperature, it's energy, life. Show me, she requested, her voice taking on a quality he hadn't heard before. Cash hesitated only a moment before drawing her closer. Their bodies fit together as if designed for this purpose, her cool skin warming rapidly against his. When their lips met, Efiara trembled. Not from cold, but from a heat far more primal than anything technology could produce. Outside, an ice wolf howled in the distance, a lonely sound against Viridia's endless night. But inside their small haven, Cash and Efiara discovered fire of an entirely different kind. They reached the Whispering Caverns by midday, a vast network of ice tunnels where wind created eerie, voice-like sounds. Cash's breathing had grown labored, his movements slower despite his thermal suit's protection. Your face, Efiara touched his cheek, concern evident in her golden eyes. The blue spreads. Cash attempted a smile, but his lips felt numb. Just a bit of frostbite, common for humans in extreme cold. Frostbite, she repeated, the word unfamiliar on her tongue. Your body fails against our cold. Not failing, just adapting slowly. He stumbled, catching himself against an ice wall. Efiara's decision was immediate. Not the crystals, not yet. She grasped his arm, supporting his weight. I take you to the life waters. The mission, Cash began. Will fail if you die, she interrupted, her tone allowing no argument. She led him deeper into the caverns, following some internal map. The passages narrowed, then widened into a chamber where steam rose from pools of bubbling liquid. Thermal vents, Cash murmured, his scientific mind still functioning despite his deteriorating condition. Geothermal activity. The breath of Viridia, Efiara corrected, sacred places, few know them. She helped him remove his outer gear, guiding him to the edge of a pool. The heat rising from the water was intense, almost painful after the relentless cold. It's safe, he asked, his voice weak. For you, for me, she hesitated. Too hot for extended exposure, but I will manage. They entered the water together. The heat enveloped Cash like a living entity, painful at first, then blissfully restorative. Color returned to his face as his core temperature stabilized. Efiara stayed close, monitoring him, though he could see discomfort in her expression as her body struggled with the unfamiliar heat. Why risk yourself, he asked softly. You could have left me, taken my technology. Her golden eyes met his. Because you brought warmth when I believed only cold remained for me. She moved closer, her blue skin glistening with moisture, and because your heat awakened something I never knew existed. The steam created a private world around them, intimate and removed from Viridia's harsh reality. As Cash's strength returned, so did his awareness of Efiara. Her proximity, the subtle patterns beneath her skin now pulsing with new vigor, the way her white hair clung to the elegant curve of her neck. When they emerged from the water, something fundamental had changed between them. The tentative alliance had transformed into something deeper, a connection neither had anticipated. That night, nestled in a small cavity near the thermal vents, Cash analyzed a sample of Efiara's blood with his portable equipment. The results made him sit up sharply, his fatigue forgotten. This can't be right, he muttered, running the analysis again. What troubles you? Efiara asked, moving to his side. Cash stared at the display, then at Efiara, seeing her with new understanding. Your genetic structure, it's not defective at all. Not defective? Efiara's voice held disbelief as she stared at the analysis screen. But I cannot withstand the cold like my people. Cash shook his head, excitement building as he explained. Your genetic structure isn't a failure. It's a specialized adaptation. Look here. He pointed to a sequence. These markers indicate heat tolerance, not cold resistance. I don't understand, she said, the diamond marking on her forehead pulsing with agitation. Your people evolved for extreme cold, but you're different. Your body is designed to thrive in warmer environments. Cash's eyes gleamed with scientific revelation. You're not weak, Efiara. You're specialized for a different purpose. He brought up tribal records she had shared earlier, cross-referencing them with his analysis. According to this, your mutation appears approximately once every 7 generations. It's not random. It's a deliberate evolutionary adaptation. Efiara's hands trembled as she processed his words. But why? Our world is ice. Not all worlds are. Think about it. A species that can survive extreme cold is valuable, but one that can also send representatives to warmer planets? That's an evolutionary advantage. Cash touched her hand gently. You were meant to be an ambassador to worlds like mine. Realization dawned slowly across Efiara's features, followed by confusion, then anger. But Calvik said, I reviewed the tribal records you shared. Cash interrupted, bringing up another screen. There's evidence of manipulation. These passages about your condition, they've been altered. Efiara took the device, studying it intently. These are Elder Vaish's markings, but the words are wrong. Cash nodded grimly. Someone deliberately misrepresented your condition to ensure your exile. Calvik, she whispered, her golden eyes narrowing. He was selected for ambassador training before my condition emerged, when the elders began testing me instead. He made sure you were removed from consideration, Cash finished, by convincing your people you were defective, not special. Efiara stood abruptly, moving to the edge of their small haven. Her entire frame vibrated with barely contained emotion. My life, she said, her voice dangerously quiet, my purpose, stolen by jealousy. Cash approached her carefully. There's more. The records indicate previous individuals with your adaptation were revered, not exiled. She turned to him, her expression transformed by this new knowledge. The diamond marking on her forehead burned brighter than he had ever seen it. I am not broken, she stated, as if testing the truth of the words. No, Cash confirmed. You're evolved, adapted for bridge building between worlds. He hesitated, then added, You know what this means? Fiara's eyes met his, a new fire burning within them. We must return to my tribe. The truth must be known. Cash nodded slowly, understanding the danger this decision presented. Your people aren't fond of outsiders, especially humans. They will listen, she said with newfound conviction, or they will lose their future among the stars. As they gathered their supplies, preparing to return to the surface with both the truth and the cerium crystals they had come for, Cash watched Efiara move with a new purpose, her steps lighter despite the gravity of their discovery. The truth had done what no technology could accomplish. It had lit an internal fire that no Viridian winter could extinguish. The ship's communication array hummed with new life, the cerium crystals amplifying the signal to reach beyond Viridia's atmosphere. Cash made the final adjustments while Efiara watched, her expression pensive. There, he announced, closing the access panel. It's done. Rescue signal activated. How long? She asked, her voice carefully neutral. Days, maybe weeks. He turned to face her. Depends on vessel proximity and weather conditions. The unspoken question hung between them. With the ship's repairs complete, their initial bargain was fulfilled. Cash had the means to leave Viridia to return to Earth with his remarkable findings about both the planet and Efiara herself. The data would make his career the first documented case of evolutionary adaptation specifically designed for interspecies diplomacy. Efiara moved to the shelter's viewport, gazing toward the distant lights of her tribal settlement, barely visible through the swirling snow. You have shared truth with me, she said quietly, but my people remain in darkness. Cash joined her at the viewport. What would happen if you returned alone, with just the evidence? Calvik's influence is strong, without validation from an outside authority. She left the sentence unfinished. And if I accompany you? She turned to him, surprise evident in her golden eyes. You would risk yourself? My people have killed humans before. I'm not just any human, Cash replied with a slight smile. I'm a scientist with evidence that could transform your society's understanding of its own evolution. He reached out, brushing a strand of white hair from her face. Besides, I've faced ice vipers and survived Viridian blizzards. How much worse could tribal politics be? Efiara's expression softened, the diamond mark on her forehead pulsing gently. There is another who might help us. Elder Vaisha lives in solitude since challenging Domaris years ago. Her word still carries weight. Then we see Vaisha first, Cash decided. That night, as they prepared for the journey, Efiara taught Cash about Viridian justice concepts, their complex honor codes, and the precise ritual language he would need. Your people have a beautiful way of viewing balance, Cash observed. Not revenge, but restoration. We must survive harsh conditions, she explained. Wasting energy on vengeance is inefficient. Their conversation continued late into the night, moving from cultural exchange to personal revelation. Cash spoke of Earth's diverse environments, of oceans and deserts, forests and mountains. Efiara listened with rapt attention, asking questions that revealed her innate diplomatic abilities. When morning came, they stood at the threshold of the shelter, facing the decision that would define both their futures. We could wait, Cash said softly, for the rescue ship, return with scientific proof, diplomatic channels. Efiara touched the thermal regulator at her throat, then looked into his eyes. Some fires once lit cannot be contained. Her hand found his. I choose truth, whatever the cost. Cash nodded, understanding completely. Then we face it together. The shelter door opened to Viridia's howling winds, and they stepped out, no longer strangers from different worlds, but allies with a shared purpose, and something more profound neither had yet named. The path to Elder Vacia's dwelling cut through Viridia's most treacherous terrain, the shifting plains, where methane pockets beneath the ice created unpredictable collapses. Efiara moved with certainty, reading subtle cues in the ice that Cash's instruments couldn't detect. There, she pointed toward a distant spire of black rock jutting through the ice sheet, Vacia's sanctuary. A sudden crack beneath their feet sent them scrambling as the ice split. Cash deployed his molecular grapple, firing it into solid ice ahead. The line went taut as they dangled over a newly formed chasm. Hold on, he shouted, pulling Efiara close as they swung across the gap. They landed hard on the opposite side, rolling through the snow. When they came to a stop, Efiara was pressed against him, her face inches from his. For a moment, despite the danger, neither moved. Your technology, she said breathlessly, is occasionally useful. Cash laughed, the sound strange in Viridia's silent landscape. High praise from a Viridian. They continued on, each challenge reinforcing their partnership. Cash's innovations complemented Efiara's innate knowledge, creating solutions neither could have devised alone. Elder Vacia's dwelling was carved into the rock spire, not a cave but a structure of geometric precision. No guards protected it, only the journey itself served as gatekeeper. She expects us, Efiara said, noticing marks in the snow. Vacia sees beyond ordinary sight. The elder who greeted them bore little resemblance to the frail figure Cash had imagined. Vacia stood tall, her blue skin deeper in tone than Efiara's, marked with elaborate patterns that suggested great age. Her eyes, unlike Efiara's gold, were silver, with vertical pupils that evaluated them with unnerving intensity. The outcast returns with a starwalker, she observed, her voice resonant with authority. Interesting times indeed. The inside of her dwelling was unexpectedly warm, heated by carefully channeled thermal vents. Cash noted how comfortable Efiara became in this environment, further confirming his theory. We bring truth, Efiara began, kneeling in the traditional Viridian manner. Truth needs no announcement, Vacia replied, her silver eyes shifting to Cash. You've examined her, scientist. Tell me what you found. Cash presented his evidence methodically, as he would to colleagues at a symposium. Vacia listened without interruption, her expression revealing nothing. When he finished, she approached Efiara, placing gnarled fingers on the diamond marking that adorned her forehead. The mark brightened at her touch. The ancient texts speak of the fire-bearers, Vacia said quietly, those born to carry our essence to warm worlds. In my youth, I witnessed the last fire-bearer's journey to the stars. Her eyes hardened. Before Damaris closed our world to outsiders. Then you believe us? Efiara asked. Belief is irrelevant, evidence speaks. Vacia turned to Cash. You could have taken her, studied her, used her genetic material for your science. Instead, you bring her home with her dignity intact. She nodded slowly. I will stand witness before the tribe. As they prepared to depart for the tribal settlement, Vacia took Cash aside. She burns differently now, the elder said cryptically, not just with the fire of her birthright. Cash met her silver gaze steadily, I've noticed. The flames you've awakened in her will either forge a new future or consume you both. Vacia's expression softened momentarily. Choose your path with care, Starwalker. Outside, Efiara waited, her white hair gleaming against the perpetual twilight of Viridia's sky. Cash felt something tighten in his chest at the sight of her. Pride, admiration, and something deeper he wasn't yet ready to name. Together with Elder Vaisha, they set out for the confrontation that would either vindicate Ephiara or condemn them all. The tribal settlement emerged from the ice like a living entity. Structures of carved ice reinforced with local minerals, glowing with internal bioluminescence. Sentries spotted them immediately, their alarmed calls echoing across the ice plain. "Human!" The word spread through the gathered Viridians, their blue forms tense with hostility. Golden eyes, similar to Ephiara's but lacking her warmth, tracked Cash's every movement. Damaris appeared at the settlement's entrance, flanked by warriors. Taller than the others, with elaborate markings denoting his rank, he radiated cold authority. "The exile returns with our enemy," he announced, his deep voice carrying across the gathering. Ephiara stepped forward. "I return with truth, Damaris." "And I stand witness," Elder Vaisha added, her presence creating a ripple of surprise among the tribe. Calvic pushed through the crowd, his muscular frame imposing even among his people. The moment his eyes fell on Ephiara, Cash saw it, a flicker of fear quickly masked by aggression. "The cold week brings a human to our sacred ground," Calvic spat. "This desecration demands justice." "Indeed," Vaisha agreed, her silver eyes gleaming. "Justice is precisely what we seek." Tribal custom demanded a formal hearing. Inside the central ice hall, the tribe gathered in concentric circles, with Damaris presiding from an elevated platform. Cash noted the hall's temperature, significantly colder than outside, maintained deliberately to showcase Viridian hardiness. Ephiara stood tall despite the cold, no longer hunched against it as she had been in exile. The thermal regulator at her throat remained hidden beneath her garments, a secret advantage. "Speak your claim," Damaris commanded. Ephiara's voice rang clear. "I was named defective, exiled for weakness. The human scientist has proven this false. I am a firebearer, born to bridge worlds." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Cash recognized the term from Vaisha's explanation, a revered role in ancient Viridian culture. Calvic laughed dismissively. Convenient lies from a desperate exile and her human pet. "Science doesn't lie," Cash interjected, stepping forward. "Your tribal records contain the truth before they were altered." Calvic's eyes narrowed dangerously. "The human speaks without permission." "The human speaks with evidence," Vaisha countered, producing the data Cash had compiled. "Records altered by your hand, Calvic." Damaris examined the evidence, his expression grave. "These are serious accusations." "I demand trial by combat," Calvic declared suddenly. "The human has insulted my honor with false claims." Cash felt a chill that had nothing to do with Viridia's temperature. Viridian combat was legendary for its brutality. "I accept," he said before Ephiara could object. He had studied enough of their culture to know that refusal would invalidate their claims. Calvic smiled coldly. "Prepare yourself, human. Your warm blood will steam beautifully on our ice." The combat circle was drawn outside, a perfect ring etched into the ice. Cash removed his thermal suit, keeping only the base layer that allowed minimal movement. The cold hit him immediately, stealing his breath. Ephiara approached, concern evident in her eyes. "His strength is in direct combat. Your advantage is adaptation." Cash nodded, understanding her subtle hint. "Trust me." The combat began with Calvic charging, his superior strength nearly ending the fight in seconds. Cash narrowly avoided the attack, using the slick ice to slide beyond reach. "You cannot evade forever," Calvic taunted, circling predatorily. "Don't need forever," Cash replied, continuing his strategic movement. "Just long enough." As minutes passed, Calvic's aggression increased while Cash maintained controlled motion, leading his opponent in an expanding spiral. The Viridian warriors watching began to mutter in confusion. "Fight me," Calvic demanded. "I am," Cash answered calmly, "just not on your terms." Suddenly, Cash stopped retreating and stepped toward the center of their spiral pattern. Too late, Calvic realized the trap. The ice beneath him cracked, weakened by Cash's calculated footwork and body heat transfer. The Viridian warrior plunged waist-deep into freezing water, his momentum halted. Cash approached his struggling opponent, careful to distribute his weight. "Your people respect adaptation, correct? I've just adapted your environment to my advantage." The tribe watched in stunned silence as Cash extended his hand to Calvic. Yield and live with the truth. Fury and humiliation warred on Calvic's face, but with the ice continuing to crack around him, survival instinct prevailed. He grasped Cash's hand, allowing himself to be pulled to safety. "I yield," he growled. Damaris stepped forward. "The combat is decided. The human has proven his worth through ingenuity rather than strength." His golden eyes shifted to Efiara. "Your claim will be heard in full." The ice hall buzzed with murmurs as the tribe processed the outcome. Cash's chest heaved, his breath steaming in the frigid air. Efiara's eyes met his, a mix of relief and pride shining in their golden depths. Calvic, still dripping from the icy water, glared but remained silent, his defeat undeniable. Damaris raised a hand, silencing the crowd. "Efiara, present your evidence. Let the tribe judge its truth." Efiara stepped into the center of the hall, her posture strong despite the biting cold. The thermal regulator at her throat hummed softly, hidden beneath her clothing, giving her the strength to stand tall. "My exile was based on a lie," she began, her voice steady. "Calvic altered the sacred records to hide my true nature. I am a fire-bearer, born to connect our people to other worlds, not a defect to be cast out." The tribe's murmurs grew louder, a mix of shock and curiosity. Cash handed Efiara the data tablet, its screen glowing with the evidence he'd compiled. She held it up for all to see. "This human, Cash, uncovered the truth. My genes are not weak. They are designed for warmth, for diplomacy, for a purpose our ancestors foresaw." Vaisha stepped forward, her silver eyes scanning the crowd. "I have seen the data. It matches the ancient texts before they were changed. Efiara is no outcast. She is our bridge to the stars." Calvic's face twisted. "Lies. She clings to this human's tricks to save herself." "Enough." Damaris's voice cut through the hall like a blade. "Calvic, you have lost honor in combat. Your words carry no weight until you restore it." Cash watched Calvic's shoulders slump, the warrior's arrogance crumbling under the tribe's judgment. Efiara continued, her voice growing bolder. "The ancient texts speak of fire-bearers born every 7 generations to carry our essence to warm worlds. I am one of them. My exile was not mercy, it was theft of my purpose." A warrior in the crowd, her blue skin marked with intricate patterns, spoke up. "If this is true, why did the elders not see it?" Vesha answered before Efiara could. "Because Calvic deceived them. He feared Efiara's potential would outshine his own. He altered the records to ensure her exile." The crowd erupted in angry whispers. Damaris turned to Calvic. "What say you to these charges?" Calvic's eyes darted, searching for allies, but none stepped forward. "I acted for the tribe's strength," he stammered. "Her weakness would have endangered us all." "Liar!" Efiara's voice rang out, sharp and fierce. "You acted for your own pride. You stole my future and betrayed our people." Damaris's gaze was cold. "The evidence is clear. Calvic, you will face the circle of truth. If found guilty, you will join the banished." Calvic's face paled, but he said nothing. 2 warriors stepped forward, escorting him from the hall. The tribe's attention returned to Efiara and Cash. "Efiara," Damaris said, "your exile is lifted. You are restored to the tribe as a fire-bearer. Your role will be honored." Efiara's eyes glistened, but she held her composure. "Thank you, Damaris. But my purpose extends beyond Viridia. The human has shown me a universe of possibilities. I ask to learn from him, to prepare for my role as ambassador." The tribe murmured again, some with approval, others with unease. Cash stepped beside Efiara, his voice calm but firm. "I'm a scientist, not a conqueror. My goal is to understand, not to impose. Efiara's adaptation could open doors between our worlds. I'd like to help her explore that." Damaris studied Cash, then nodded slowly. "Your actions speak truth, human. You may stay as our guest while Efiara prepares for her role." Vaisha approached, placing a hand on Efiara's shoulder. "You have much to learn, Firebearer, but your heart is ready." As the tribe dispersed, Cash and Efiara returned to the shelter, the weight of their victory settling over them. Inside, the warmth enveloped them, and Efiara's diamond marking pulsed brightly. "You did it," Cash said, a smile tugging at his lips. "You're home." "Not just home," Efiara replied, her voice soft. "I'm whole." She touched the thermal regulator at her throat. "You gave me more than warmth, Cash. You gave me truth." He shrugged, trying to downplay it. Just doing what scientists do, finding answers. Her golden eyes held his, intense and searching. You could leave now, your signal is active, rescue will come. Cash hesitated, his gaze drifting to the viewport where Viridia's icy plains stretched endlessly. I could, but there's more to learn here. About your people, your world. He paused, meeting her eyes. About you. Efiara's blue skin flushed, the vein-like patterns beneath it glowing faintly. What do you wish to learn? He stepped closer, his voice low. Everything. Your history, your dreams, what makes your heart burn brighter than that regulator? She laughed, a sound like music in the quiet shelter. Careful, human, you awaken fires you may not understand. I'm a quick study, he replied, his hand brushing hers. The contact sent a spark through him, her skin now warm from the regulator's influence. Over the next days they worked together, preparing Efiara for her ambassadorial role. Cash taught her about Earth's cultures, its technologies, and its diplomatic protocols. In return, she shared Viridian lore, stories of ancient fire-bearers who had ventured to distant stars, only to be forgotten as the tribe turned inward. One evening, as they sat by the thermal unit, Efiara spoke softly. My people feared the stars after the human invasion. They closed their hearts to outsiders, but you've shown me trust is possible. Cash leaned back, studying her. Trust goes both ways. You could have taken my tech and left me to freeze. Instead, you saved me in the life waters. She smiled, her white hair catching the light. You were worth saving. Their hands found each other, fingers intertwining naturally. The shelter felt smaller, the air charged with something unspoken. Cash's heart raced, but he kept his voice steady. When the rescue ship comes, I'll have to report my findings. The data on you, it could change everything. Efiara's expression grew serious. Will they take me? Study me like a specimen? More, she offered, her voice teasing but warm. Yeah, he admitted, a lot more. Their lips met, a gentle collision of warmth and coolness. Efiara's kiss was hesitant at first, then deepened, her hands gripping his shoulders as if anchoring herself to this new sensation. When they parted, her eyes were wide, the diamond marking on her forehead glowing fiercely. Your heat, she whispered, it's unlike anything I've known. And your fire, Cash replied, is unlike anything I've studied. They spent the night wrapped in each other's warmth, the shelter a haven against Viridia's relentless cold. Outside, the blizzard raged, but inside they built something stronger, a bond forged in trust, truth, and shared discovery. Days later, a faint signal pierced the shelter's communication array. Cash checked the display, his stomach tightening. Rescue ship, they've picked up the beacon. Efiara's hand tightened on his. How long? Hours, maybe less. He turned to her. You don't have to come with me. You're home now with your people. She shook her head, her expression resolute. My purpose is bigger than Viridia. I'm a fire-bearer. My place is among the stars with you. Cash's heart swelled, but he kept his tone light. Gonna be tough explaining you to my team. Hey, meet my ambassador girlfriend from an ice planet. Efiara laughed, the sound bright and free. And I'll tell my tribe, meet my human who fights with cleverness and warms my soul. They prepared for the ship's arrival, packing Cash's equipment and Efiara's few possessions. She wore the thermal regulator openly now, a symbol of her reclaimed identity. As they stepped outside, the rescue vessel's lights cut through the twilight, descending through the storm. Domaris and Vaisha arrived to see them off, a small group of warriors trailing behind. Domaris's golden eyes softened as he addressed Efiara. You carry our hope, fire-bearer. Show the stars who we are. I will, she promised, standing tall. Vaisha turned to Cash. Protect her, Starwalker. She is our future. I'll do more than protect her, Cash replied. I'll stand beside her. The rescue ship landed, its hatch opening to reveal a team of scientists and medics. Their leader, a woman named Dr. Lena Carter, stepped forward, her eyes widening at the sight of Efiara. Cash, what the hell is this? This, Cash said, his arm around Efiara, is Ambassador Efiara, a fire-bearer of Viridia. She's coming with us to represent her people. Lena's skepticism faded as Efiara stepped forward, her voice clear. I seek to learn from your world and share mine. Will you accept me? The team exchanged glances, then Lena nodded. Welcome aboard, Ambassador. As they boarded the ship, Cash glanced back at Viridia's icy expanse. The planet had nearly killed him, but it had also given him Ephiara, a discovery beyond any he'd imagined. In the ship's warmth, Ephiara leaned against him, her hand finding his. What's Earth like? She asked, her golden eyes bright with curiosity. Messy, chaotic, beautiful, Cash said. You'll love it. And your people? Will they accept me? He squeezed her hand. Some will, others will convince, together. The ship lifted off, leaving Viridia's cold behind. Ephiara's diamond marking glowed softly, a beacon of her purpose. Cash knew the road ahead would be challenging. Cultural